Hello everyone, welcome to Homeschool. Hope everybody are doing fantastic. See, today we are with the paper explanation or paper discussion session. See, we have an 80-mark paper on all chemistry and biology chapters, which have been attached in the description box. See, that paper is quite a challenging paper, and actually, this is a paper for state board examination on NCERT syllabus. Even CBSE people can refer this paper because quite an application based paper it is. So some of the questions can be helpful for you also. Though the syllabus is similar, just paper patterns are different for state board as well as CBSE board. So this paper is completely on Karnataka SSLC board pattern, right? So coming to the first main, that is multiple choice question. So under that, the very first question is, identify the correct statement among the following with respect to the plant hormones. See, the question is displayed on the board also. You can refer the question here. See, this question is completely based on the plant hormones, right? You have to select the correct statement, that is the correct option among the four. The first option is cytokinins promote wilting of leaves. You know what is the duty of cytokinin? Let us write their actual duty or function. Later we can choose the option, right? Say here, cytokinin. So cytokinin is the one which actually promotes cell division, isn't it? Promotes cell division. That means helps in the growth of a plant. It helps for the cells to divide, right? And the next option, what are they telling here? Cytokinins promote wilting of leaves. Wilting of leaves in the sense falling of leaves. So is it a true option? Definitely no. Because what is the duty of cytokinin? Cytokinin promotes cell division. Yes or no? Right. What is the second option? Auxin inhibits stem elongation, they told. But what is the main duty of auxin, guys? Auxin helps in stem elongation, right? Auxin helps. It helps in stem elongation, but they said it inhibits stem elongation, whereas it's a false statement. What is the main work of auxin? Auxin helps in stem elongation. Next, the third option, abscisic acid inhibits the growth of a plant. Definitely yes, right? So what is the main function of abscisic acid? Inhibits. It inhibits growth and also it helps in wilting of leaves. Yes or no? So falling of leaves helps in the wilting of leaves and also inhibits the growth. So this is the correct option. So about abscisic acid, whatever they mentioned here is a correct one, right? Let us see the fourth option also. Gibberellins promote falling of leaves. Is it true? No, it's not a true statement. So gibberellins also does the work of auxin. Yes or no? Even gibberellins can help in stem elongation or growth of any part, not only the stem. It can also help in the root elongation. Any part of a plant can be grown, if gibberellins are present, right? So this is the first question and the correct option is option C, that is abscisic acid inhibits growth of a plant. Clear? Fine. And see, the question can be asked as MCQ or 2-mark question can be asked here, 1-mark question can be asked here. So definitely there are 4 plant hormones. You must know their duty or their function, right? So based on this, questions can be asked in any form. So this is one important part of plant hormones in the chapter control and coordination. Clear? Fine. Let us go for the next question. See, second question is from the chapter carbon and its compounds about homologous series. The group of compounds which are in homologous series, right? 4 options are given. Say which of the option is suiting for homologous series. So first and foremost, what do you mean by homologous series? A series of compounds which belong to the same class of organic compounds having a difference of just CH2, isn't it? And you see the option C here, they have given CH4, C2H6, C3H8, okay? And we know this is methane and this is ethane and this is propane, isn't it? And see, after methane there is a ethane, after ethane there is a propane. What is the difference between CH4 and C2H6? See, CH2 is the difference. There is 1 carbon extra in ethane and 2 hydrogens extra in ethane, right? So what is the difference between methane and ethane? Just CH2. What is the difference between ethane and propane? Again, there is CH2. So, same class of compounds. See, all of them belongs to the group called alkanes, isn't it? Same class of compounds, but between the successive member, there is a difference of CH2, right? Say, between methane and ethane, difference is CH2. Between ethane and propane, difference is CH2. See, if you find this situation, then I can say these compounds belong to a category called homologous series, isn't it? So option C is the correct answer. If you see option A, you can check it out. There is no difference of CH2 between first member and the second member, right? And if you see option B, you can observe the same thing. There is no difference of CH2 between first and second member. Say this difference you try to think of. If you find this difference between first and second member, second and third member, then your option is correct, right? If you have the difference, and that belongs to homologous series. Fine. And coming to the third question, which gas is produced by reaction of base with metal? So whenever a base reacts with a metal, you know, what do you get? You get salt and hydrogen gas. It can be called as dihydrogen gas also, isn't it? So your option is B. Fourth one, an example of homologous organs is. First option, you have to say which option is belonging to homologous organs. What do you mean by homologous organs? They have, you know, same structure, right? Same structural origin, but different function, isn't it? See the first option, our arm and dog's foreleg. Our arm, that is our leg, and dog's foreleg, both are same in structure. They have same structural origin, but function is different, right? Our arm, so we use our hands for, you know, the small movements, and dog's foreleg is used for walking, running, jumping, right? Say with our arm we can't jump, walk, right? We just do certain things with the help of certain movements with the hand, right? So here function is different, but structural origin is same. So this, our arm and dog's foreleg belongs to homologous organs only. Second one, our teeth and elephant's tusk. Elephant tusk is nothing but elephant's that long teeth-like structures only. So both have same structure, but function is different, right? And potato and runners of a gas, both have same structural. There is a structural resemblance, but function is different, right? So all the three options are homologous organs only. So see the fourth option, all the above. So all the above is the correct option. So option D is correct here. Fifth one, significant role of stomata in transportation is to. See, transportation of water or transportation of food, maybe. So whenever certain things are transporting from one region to another region, So how does stomata helpful there in case of transportation? See the options. Create upward pressure. Second option, absorb carbon dioxide. Third option, releases oxygen. Fourth option, perform transpiration continuously. See, it's a quite tricky question, isn't it? Actually speaking, through stomata, absorption of carbon dioxide can take place. See, but that is during photosynthesis. Only when photosynthesis was happening, carbon dioxide can enter through stomata. Okay, but they are asking the role of stomata in transportation, like how it is helpful in passing of water from roots to leaves. Say in the transportation, how stomata is helpful. That's what they are asking, right? Say how it is helpful during transportation. It is not by absorbing carbon dioxide. It absorbs carbon dioxide. That is one of the function of stomata only. But when? During photosynthesis. But they are asking during transportation, what is its work? You should be careful with the question. And releases oxygen. Actually, again during photosynthesis, byproduct is oxygen. No, it can be released. But that was during photosynthesis. But they are asking during transportation. Creates upward pressure. But see the fourth option. Perform transpiration continuously. Say when transpiration occurs only, upward pressure is created. But how does the transpiration occurs? Through stomata, isn't it? Say here stomata is not a reason for creating upward pressure, but stomata is a reason for transpiration. So what do you mean by transpiration? Escape of water from leaves. So that water escaping can be done through stomata, isn't it? So what is the function of stomata during transportation? It is to create, it is to help for which process? Transpiration continuously. So option 4 is the correct one. Say you may be thinking stomata can be helpful in doing all the 4, but they are asking during transportation, what is the work does it do? So during transportation, it will help for transpiration to occur continuously, right? So very nice question. So keep this question in mind. Next one, sixth question. If the pH value of a solution is 6, solution will be of what type? Strong acid, strong base, mild acid and mild base. It is mild acid. pH is 6, almost it is near to 7, isn't it? So mild acid. Option C is correct. Seventh question, quite easy question. Growing fetus derive nutrition from mother's blood through placenta. Definitely, I no need to read the options. It is placenta, right? Okay. And coming to the 8th question. See this question, you can find it in my video. I have done certain questions on heredity. You will find in the chapter heredity and evolution. I have very neatly explained this question, right? So here the answer for this question is option C. Coming to the second main, that is each question carries only 1 mark. That is the 9th question. It's on periodic table chapter. The atomic numbers of 3 elements X, Y, Z, X, Y and Z are 3, 11 and 17 respectively. State giving reason which 2 elements will show similar chemical properties. Can you tell me which element is the X? Right, X atomic number is 3. So which element has an atomic number 3? Definitely it is lithium. And which element has the atomic number 11? It is sodium. And atomic number 17 is for chlorine. So our X is lithium, Y is sodium, Z is chlorine. So which elements have similar chemical properties? Definitely lithium and sodium, isn't it? Because they belong to same group. So which group they are placed? They are placed in the first group of periodic table. You can observe the periodic table. Lithium and sodium are placed in the first group. The elements which are there in a same group have same chemical and physical properties, isn't it? So what is your answer here? The element X, that is lithium, and the element Y, that is sodium, since they belong to same group, they have same chemical properties. Okay, so this must be your answer. See, such type of questions are frequently asked from the chapter periodic table. So you must study the periodic table very, very thoroughly, right? 10th question. Name the hormone in humans which regulate carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism in the body. Which hormone can regulate fat, carbohydrates and protein metabolism? Definitely the hormone is thyroid. Thyroid gland secretes thyroxine hormone, isn't it? So thyroxine hormone is the one which regulates carbohydrate, protein and fat metabolism. And mention the site where it is synthesized. It is synthesized in thyroid gland, isn't it? So this must be your answer. 11th question. What is thermite reaction? Very easy. Thermite reaction, aluminothermite reaction. So here aluminium is the reducing agent. You know, it reacts with Fe2O3. You will get Al2O3 plus iron and lots of heat is liberated, right? So that's the reason, because of this much heat liberated, because it is exothermic reaction, it is used for joining railway track. Joining railway track, isn't it? So this point also try to remember. And how do you balance this? Definitely you should know how to balance a reaction. Okay, so this is what we call thermite reaction. 12th question. What is the function of pulmonary artery? So pulmonary artery is the one which carries which type of blood? Deoxygenated blood. From where to where? From right ventricle to lungs, isn't it? So pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood from right ventricle to lungs. And what is the duty of pulmonary vein? Carries oxygenated blood from lungs to auricle. Yes or no? Left auricle, right? So definitely you must try to understand the duties of pulmonary vein and pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood from ventricle to lungs. Pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from lungs to auricle, okay, or atrium, right? Fine. And coming to the next question, that is 13th question. Why is ionic compounds in solid state do not conduct electricity, whereas in molten state are good conductors of electricity? Ionic compounds conduct electricity in molten state or liquid state. It is because of ions present. Ions present, and these ions are mobile. Yes, movable ions present in liquid or molten state only. Whereas in a solid state, ions do not move. They have electrostatic force of attraction between positive and negative ion. That electrostatic force of attraction is very, very, very strong, right? So ions do not move in a solid state. But these ions can be movable once the solid is converted into molten or liquid state. So when ions start moving, definitely they can carry electric current from one place to another place, right? So what is your answer? In molten or liquid state, movable ions are present. Fine. 14th question. Write structural formula of alkenes having 5 carbon atoms. Alkene having 5 carbon atoms. Right? Alkene having 5 carbon atoms. So how do you write the structure? First, put the 5 carbon atoms. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alkene they said. So between the first carbon and the second carbon, put the double bond. And now you put how many ever hydrogens are required. See, around carbon you should have 4 bonds. Here already 2 bonds are there. So how many more hydrogens? 1, 2. For this carbon, 3 bonds are already there. So how many more hydrogen? Just 1. For this carbon, 2 bonds are already there. So how many hydrogens? 2 hydrogens. Say for this carbon also 2 hydrogens. And this carbon, 3 hydrogens. Right? So this is the structural formula of alkene having 5 carbon atoms. So what is its name? Its name is pentene. Isn't it? So this particular structure you have to mention along with the name. Next, what is genetic drift? The definitions are very important. In case of evolution, you must know the definitions of speciation, gene flow, genetic drift, and homologous, analogous, right? So fossils definition. So there are certain definitions which are very, very important to remember. So here, what do you mean by a genetic drift? It is the random change in the number of genes, right, by chance or luck is called genetic drift. Okay, random change in what? In genes, in the number of genes. How? Just by a chance or by a luck. And this was very clearly explained in the chapter Heredity and Evolution. You can refer, if you want the things in detail, you can just go to the playlist Heredity Evolution and then you can watch the video on speciation. So you will find detailed aspects about the genetic drift. But now, since it is asked for 1 mark, you have to just write its definition. That is nothing but random change in the number of genes due to a chance or a luck. Right? Fine. 16th question. Name 2 metals which will displace hydrogen from dilute acids. So which metals are more reactive than hydrogen? All of them can take out hydrogen from acids when they react with acids, isn't it? So you have to list out the elements which are more reactive than hydrogen, right? So which elements are more reactive than hydrogen? Definitely the elements like, you have so many elements. You can mention zinc and iron, you have like Mg, aluminium, so many elements are there which are more reactive than hydrogen. So I have given you one beautiful trick to remember reactivity series, isn't it? So to answer this question, you must know reactivity series. So what was the trick that I told you in one of my videos? I told this trick during 2 chapters. One is chemical reactions and equation. The other one is, metals and non-metals time also, right? So just try to mention any of these elements which come above the hydrogen. Coming to the 2 mark questions, that is, observe this 17th question, very direct question. What is the difference between self-pollination and cross-pollination? At least 2 points you have to mention. So self-pollination and cross-pollination, right? So what do you mean by self-pollination? Self-pollination always takes place in a bisexual flower, isn't it? And cross-pollination takes place in a unisexual flower. This is one point of difference you can mention. So bisexual flower is the flower where you have both stamens and the female reproductory system, right? All that ovary stigma style you will have. Male reproductory system and female reproductory system both stay in a same flower. That is bisexual flower. So what happens here? Transfer of, you can refer the second point. I'm diving to the second point. Transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma in a same flower occurs in a same flower, isn't it? Because male reproductory organ, female reproductory organ is there in a same flower. Stamens and stigma is there in a same flower. So that's the reason transfer of pollen grains from anther to stigma takes place in a same flower. So that's what we call it as self-pollination. So what do you mean by cross-pollination? Pollen grains are transferred from anther of one flower to stigma of another flower. So this is what we call cross pollination, right? Because male reproductive organ is in one flower, female reproductive organ is in another flower. So anther have to be transferred from one flower to another flower, right? So this is what the point of difference between self-pollination and cross-pollination. 18th question. How do plants get rid of excretory product? So by which ways the plants gets rid of excretory products, that is the byproducts or waste products? How do plant give out into the atmosphere? So you have to mention the ways through which the waste material can come out from a plant. The first one is, what is the process? Photosynthesis. Say during photosynthesis, what is the byproduct, guys? Oxygen, right? So this is one excretory product that is coming out from plant, right? So how does it come out? During photosynthesis. You have to mention that. And the second one is during respiration. During respiration, which is the byproduct? Carbon dioxide is the excretory product or byproduct that will come out from a plant. But that carbon dioxide later used by the plant only for photosynthesis. That's another aspect. But definitely during respiration, what is the waste product or byproduct formed in the plant? That is carbon dioxide. So this comes out during respiration. Okay, and the third one is during transpiration. Transpiration occurs, right? And during transpiration, water is the excretory product that is released into the atmosphere. This point also you can, mention. And many waste products will come out from a plant body in the form of resins, gums, etc. Yes or no? So these are also excretory products. Excretory products that come out from a plant body. You know how they will come out? From the bark of a plant. Bark of a plant, right? So these are the 4 points you can mention. And sometimes the plant give out its waste product and they get dissolved in a soil. Directly the plant gives out waste products into the soil also through the roots. So there are many ways the plant give out its waste products into the atmosphere. The 4 important ways is during photosynthesis, oxygen comes out. Oxygen is the waste product here during photosynthesis, right? And during respiration, which is the waste product, carbon dioxide. And during transpiration, water comes outside. And many waste, nitrogenous waste and all can come out in the form of resins and gums from the bark area of a plant. So if you can mention these 4 points, it is more than enough. Next, mention the importance of transpiration in plants. So what is the importance of transpiration? First of all, what do you mean by transpiration here? Transpiration in the sense escape of water from stomata, right? Stomata is called transpiration. And how does it helpful for a plant? It is helpful to create transpirational pull. Yes or no? Transpirational pull. So this transpirational pull again helps in transporting water and minerals in the plant, that is ascent of sap. It helps for ascent of sap. Yes or no? So transpiration is nothing but escape of water from stomata. You have to mention that point. Later, transpiration helps to create transpirational pull. So, and after that, you mention what do you mean by transpirational pull. What is transpirational pull? It is a kind of force, upward force or upward pressure created in a plant body, so that water and minerals can be passed from roots to leaves. See, water and minerals, they have to come from bottom to top. So definitely some pressure must pull them from bottom to top, right? So such a suction pressure is created. That is what we call transpirational pull. So how it is helpful? Transpirational pull is helpful in transporting water and minerals, that is ascent of sap, right? So this much you have to mention for this question. Coming to the next question, that is 19th question. What is esterification reaction? Explain with an example. So formation of esters, right? Formation of esters is called esterification reaction. So how do you mention the equation? You have to take one alcohol, right, and one carboxylic acid, and when you treat it with in presence of concentrated sulfuric acid, you will get ester, right, along with water. This is what we call esterification reaction. But you have to write example. What is the alcohol you will take? Ethanol, that is C2H5OH. Ethanol you can take, right, plus acetic acid. Let me write acetic acid this way just to show the reaction in a convenient way. And in presence of concentrated H2SO4, and here concentrated H2SO4 is a dehydrating agent. Yes or no? That means helps in the removal of water. This guy helps in removing water, right? So what happens? How the water comes outside? H of alcohol and OH of acid comes outside. So what is remaining, guys? C2H5O bond. This H is gone. So put a bond, and what is remaining this side? CO, right? So CO, this oxygen is there with a double bond, okay? And CO is over, and this C is attached to CH3, right? So this is your ester, okay, plus water. So this is the example for esterification reaction, and it's a reversible reaction, so double-headed arrow mark, okay? So you have to mention the definition, and also you should write the chemical reaction. Fine. 20th question. Name the gas released at cathode in chlor-alkali process and mention its use. So what do you mean by chlor-alkali process? Preparation of NaOH. Yes? So through chlor-alkali process, you can prepare NaOH. Yes or no? So what is the reaction of chlor-alkali process? NaCl, right, plus water. You will do electrolysis. What are the products you will get? NaOH you will get, right? Chlorine you will get, hydrogen you will get. So hydrogen is the gas, you will get it at cathode, right? Chlorine gas you will get near anode. I'm not explaining all this in detail because it is already been done in my videos, right? Say for this particular concept, if you want, you can go to the playlist of acids, bases and salts, right? In that, the last video explains about the preparation of NaOH. Okay, so which is the gas that you will get it near cathode? Hydrogen gas. And what is its use? This is used as fuel. So you no need to mention the entire equation, just you have to mention hydrogen gas is liberated at cathode and it is used as fuel, right? You get 2 marks for that. So this is about the 20th question. And coming to the 21st question, an element X, atomic number is given. There is an element X and its atomic number 20. Burns in presence of oxygen to form a basic oxide. First question. Identify the element and write its electronic configuration. So, which element has atomic number 20, guys? Definitely it is a calcium. Yes or no? So, identify the element, that means it's a calcium, and write its electronic configuration, that is easy. How do you write? 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2, isn't it? Or you can write it as 2, 8, 8, 2. Okay, say this is also correct way of writing, this is also correct way of writing. And I have a beautiful trick on writing the electronic configuration. The link is there in a description box. If you want, you can just click the link and learn the easiest way of writing electronic configuration in this form. Okay, or else like you thought the easiest way of writing electronic configuration is this is also fine, right? Any of the answer you can write here. See, and calcium is a metal, no? This is a metal. So any metal when reacts with oxygen, you get an oxide which is basic, right? So any metal when reacts with oxygen, you get basic oxides. Coming to the second question, second sub question under that. State its group number and period number. Like calcium comes in which group and which period? Calcium is placed in second group, yes or no? Second group, and which period, guys? Third period, yes or no? So can you tell me which is the first element in the second period? It is beryllium. After that, magnesium. After that, calcium. Right? So beryllium comes in a second period and magnesium comes in a third period and calcium comes in a fourth period. Right? So calcium is coming in fourth period. So calcium is placed in second group and fourth period. So this is what you have to write. Coming to the next question, 22nd question. Very, very important question it is. Say for state board examination, you have found this question many times reappearing. So listen to the question carefully. A metal X which is used in thermite process. Which metal is used in thermite process, guys? Definitely aluminium. So here only you got to know that your X is nothing but aluminium. When heated with oxygen, gave an oxide Y. So this aluminium, when you heat it with oxygen, definitely you will get aluminium oxide and this is your Y. Okay. And they said this aluminium oxide is amphoteric in nature. This is amphoteric in nature. Okay. Identify X and Y. We have identified X is aluminium, Y is aluminium oxide. And also they are asking one more question there. Write down balanced chemical equations of Y with HCl and NaOH. Okay, so amphoteric oxide can react with both acids and bases. Yes or no? It can react with acid and it can also react with a base. So if Al2O3 reacts with acid, what do you get? AlCl3 plus H2O. Okay. And if Al2O3 reacts with NaOH, what do you get, guys? You will get NaAlO2, sodium aluminate plus H2O. So these reactions in a balanced condition you have to mention. Clear? So this is a very, very important question. Okay. See, they said a metal X is used in thermite process. So what is X? Aluminium. When heated with oxygen, it is giving Y. When it is heated with oxygen, it is giving Y. What is that Y? Al2O3, which is amphoteric in nature, they are telling. Identify X and Y. So X is aluminium, Y is Al2O3. Write down balanced chemical equations of Y, which is Y, this oxide, with HCl as well as NaOH. So these equations you have to mention. Coming to the 23rd question. It's from the chapter How Do Organisms Reproduce? First question. Where does the sperms produced in human body? Very easiest question. Sperms are produced in testis, right? Second one. Second sub question under that. Write the function of secretion of prostate gland and seminal vesicles. So they secrete a fluid. Yes or no? They secrete a fluid, and how it is helpful? Which helps for easy movement of sperms. Easy movement of sperms. Yes or no? So sperm plus this fluid itself we will call it as semen. Yes or no? So prostate gland and seminal vesicles actually they secrete what fluid, guys? They secrete a fluid, and what is the use of that fluid? It helps for the easy movement of sperm, and sperm plus that fluid is called as semen, right? 24th question. It's again from heredity, and this question also I solved in one of my videos on heredity. If you want a detailed explanation on this, you can just go to the playlist of heredity evolution and find the last video on heredity. You will get this question, right? Just see the question. The gene of red hair is recessive to the gene of black hair. So which is a recessive gene here? Red is recessive, right? And black is dominant, definitely. Okay. What will be the hair color of a child if he inherits a gene for red color from his mother and a gene for black from his father? Express with the help of flow chart. So you just have to do some workout. So black is a dominant one, no? So I'll write capital B, and this is a black from, father, right? And the small b is a recessive one, that is, this is from mother. So in the first generation, what do you get? Capital B, small b. And this is the genotype of a baby. See, he has got a gene for black hair also. He has got a gene for red hair also. But since black is dominant, what is the phenotype of hair color in a baby? Definitely black. Yes or no? Phenotype is black. So this much you have to show in the answer, right? Then you will be getting 2 marks. Clear? So that's all about 2 mark questions. Next, we will move on for the 3 mark questions. Coming to the 25th question, 3 mark, first 3 mark question, give reasons. There are 3 sub questions. For everything you should give a reason. First sub question. Oxygenated and deoxygenated bloods are separate in heart of mammals. Can you tell me why? You have to give a reason. See, oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood are separated in the human heart. Okay, not only in the mammals, oxygenated and deoxygenated bloods are separate even in the birds also. In all warm-blooded animals, oxygenated blood is separated from deoxygenated blood. It is because, mixing of blood can be avoided. Okay, say the first reason you can write here is mixing of blood is avoided if you can separate oxygenated with deoxygenated blood, right? So actually deoxygenated blood is impure, isn't it? It carries many waste materials also. So pure blood has to be separated from impure blood, right? So if pure blood is mixed with the impure blood, then it leads to a lot of problems, right? Say it has to be separated, right? Because deoxygenated blood is impure. And the very, very important reason here, more than this, the important reason is, it is highly necessary, separation is necessary to maintain constant body temperature. Okay, say always our mammal body temperature have to be constant. It remains constant. It will not change according to the environment, right? Say in all the seasons our body temperature remains constant only. So to maintain that constant temperature, oxygenated blood has to be separated from deoxygenated blood. Okay, say this is the main reason why we have to separate, and also mixing of blood has to be avoided. For that reason also, oxygenated blood has to be separated from deoxygenated blood. Okay, fine. And coming to the next sub question, ventricles are thick walled. Okay, see here, when we draw a human heart, we say these ventricles are thick walled, right? Say if you see, this is one ventricle, this is another ventricle, right ventricle and left ventricle. Say in case of ventricle side, see the wall is very thick. See, we have drawn a thicker wall at the bottom. Can you tell me what is the reason? Because blood is pumped with a higher pressure. What is the answer, guys? Blood is pumped with high pressure from these chambers. Okay, see here. From this particular ventricle, the blood will go to aorta. Yes or no? From aorta, the blood will move to all parts of a body, and it will be done with great pressure. See, with great pressure, blood has to move from ventricle to aorta, right? And this is our, which ventricle? Right ventricle or left ventricle? Left ventricle, isn't it? So from left ventricle, the blood will move to the aorta with great pressure. So the chamber should not get damaged when the blood is going with such high pressure. That's the reason the wall of the heart is little thicker. And again from this right ventricle, the blood will go to lungs. Yes or no? Say deoxygenated blood will move from right ventricle to lungs through pulmonary artery, isn't it? That process also happens with high pressure. So the chamber should not get damaged. So the wall of the heart is thicker. So whenever blood is moving from left ventricle to aorta, it moves with greater pressure. Whenever the deoxygenated blood is moving from right ventricle to lungs, it moves with a great pressure. So that great pressure should not damage the heart, the chambers. It should not damage the chambers. That's why the wall of a heart is thicker at the bottom. That means at the ventricle side, right? So this is the reason that you have to mention. And coming to the sub question C, arteries do not have valves. What is the reason? Veins have a valve, but arteries do not have a valve, because in artery the oxygenated blood is moving, and it will come from left ventricle to aorta, right? So aorta to various small arteries. Naturally the blood flows with high pressure in the arteries, so backward movement will never occur. Okay, only the movement of blood occurs in only one direction, because it's already flowing with high pressure. So that's why no need of any valves in the artery. But in case of veins, valves are necessary, because in veins deoxygenated blood flows. So in case the blood is flowing back, it's a problem, right? The blood should not flow black. So to avoid that back flow of a blood, valves are there in the veins, whereas that is not required in case of arteries, because the blood goes in only one direction with that high pressure. Already high pressure is there, that is making blood to go in only one direction. So valves are not necessary for arteries. Clear? Fine. And coming to the 26th question, this is from Heredity and Evolution chapter. Again, three sub-questions are there. The first sub-question, what are fossils? So we all very well know that fossils are nothing but dead remains of organism. Yes or no? Dead remains of organisms which have collected in the soil over the years are called fossils. Second sub-question, what is the difference between sex chromosome of man and sex chromosome of woman? So sex chromosomes of man. So how do you indicate sex chromosomes of man? It is XY. Yes or no? Alleles are different. And sex chromosomes of women, you have same type of alleles, actually XX. So this is what you have to represent. And third sub-question, sex of a child is determined by a father, why and how? You have to write the flow chart actually. So XX are the sex chromosome of mother, XY are the sex chromosome of father, right? So when this is crossed with this, what are the gametes, possible gametes here? Only X. What are the possible gametes here? X or Y. When X combines with X, female child will get born. When X combines with Y, male child will get born. Okay, so here the gamete formation, the different types of gametes can be formed through father's gene, not from mother. Mother always gives only X, but father can give either X gamete or Y gamete. Okay, gamete, and this decides sex of a child, isn't it? So this is your answer. So father can give either X gamete or Y gamete. So that actually decides the sex of a child. So that much is your answer. Coming to the 27th question. Name the disorders or diseases caused by the following situations. First sub-question. Under secretion of growth hormone. Say if the growth hormone secretion is very less, what is the disease caused? It is dwarfism. Yes or no? Second sub-question. What is the disease caused by over secretion of growth hormone? Gigantism. Okay, person growing very tall is called gigantism. This happens when growth hormone secretion is too much. Okay, person growing in very short height is called dwarfism. This happens when growth hormone secretion is very less in a body. Third sub-question, what disease is caused by the deficiency of iodine? That is goiter. Okay, swollen neck is caused due to the deficiency of iodine. 28th question. Draw a neat labeled diagram of nephron and write the significance of glomerulus. Significance in the sense importance. So what duty is done by glomerulus, that you have to indicate, right? So first you have to draw the diagram. So I thought you a simple way of drawing a diagram, right? See, this is renal. You have to mention labels also. This is renal vein and this is glomerulus. Yes or no? Glomerulus, and later some curved tubules, something like this, and collecting tube, right? And this is a collecting tube, and this is Henle's loop, and this is Bowman's capsule. Bowman's capsule, isn't it? So this is a simple way of drawing the nephron, the functional unit of kidney. So here, what is the duty of glomerulus? So what is glomerulus? It is actually a collection of small capillaries. Collection of small capillaries. Yes or no? So what it will do, say whenever a blood is coming from a renal artery, so here purification of blood takes place. Whatever impurities are there, nitrogenous waste, all that nitrogenous waste will come out through the pores of blood capillaries. Okay, say collection of blood capillaries, you will have a small pore. So whenever impure blood is going, whenever it is coming, so through the small pores, only the nitrogenous waste will get collected in a Bowman's capsule. And that liquid with nitrogenous waste is what we will call it as urine. Yes or no? So what is the main function of glomerulus? It filters the blood. Okay, or I can say, or separates nitrogenous waste from blood. Okay, so this much you can mention. So this is what the work of glomerulus, right? It filters the blood or separates nitrogenous waste. Clear? So this is all about the 28th question. Coming to the 29th question, give reasons. First sub question. Alloys of iron are most useful when compared to pure iron. Why? See, pure iron is very soft. Guys. Okay, you can't use it for the industrial or domestic purposes. Whereas alloyed iron is hard. Okay, hard, has improved mechanical and electrical properties. Have improved mechanical and electrical properties. Okay, say always pure iron will not be used for making iron items which we use it outside in a commercial and industrial areas, right? Say pure iron is very soft. It will not be very much hard to make various substances, right? So we use alloy of iron when it is mixed with carbon, or iron when it is mixed with other elements, can become very much hard. Alloy is nothing but what? Mixing of two metals, right? Or a metal and a non-metal. So this alloying helps the properties of iron. It makes the iron very much hard so that it can be used for various purposes, right? So this is the answer that you have to give. Next sub question. Copper loses its brown color when exposed to air. So what happens for copper when it is exposed to air? Copper will react with carbon dioxide that is present in the air. So it becomes copper carbonate, which is nothing but green coat. So this is what we call rusting. So what happens for copper, guys? Copper undergoes rusting. So its brown color is lost. Copper naturally has that brown shiny color that is lost when it is kept open to the atmosphere, because it reacts with carbon dioxide that is there in the air and forms a green coat. Green coat is nothing but copper carbonate, and this process only we will call rusting. Because of this, it loses that brown color. Coming to the third sub question, aluminium oxide is called amphoteric oxide. Why do you call this as amphoteric oxide? Because aluminium oxide can react with both acids and bases, right? It can react with both acid and base. So we have, I have already given Al2O3 with HCl and Al2O3 reaction with NaOH, right? Both the equations you can mention here. So that was about 29th question. Coming to the 30th question, very much conceptual question it is. Copper sulfate crystals are heated in a dry test tube and later cooled. First it is heated in a dry test tube, later it is cooled. After cooling, again few drops of water was added. Understood the question clearly, no? Copper sulfate crystals are there in a dry test tube. I heated it. After cooling, again water was added. See the questions they asked on this statement. First question, what is the color of copper sulfate before heating? Can you tell me copper sulfate is in which color, guys? It will be there in blue color before heating, because copper sulfate has water of crystallization. Yes or no? Whenever water of crystallization is there, color can be observed for that particular solid. So copper sulfate is blue in color before heating. And when I heat it, this water of crystallization goes off. Yes or no? I took blue color crystals of copper sulfate. It is blue in color because of this 5H2O, water of crystallization we will call. When I heat it, that water of crystallization goes out and our copper sulfate becomes colorless. Okay, so as long as this water of crystallization is there, copper sulfate shows blue color. Once this goes out, your copper sulfate becomes colorless. So what was the first question? What is the color of copper sulfate before heating? It is blue. After heating, what is the color of crystals? Colorless. After adding few drops of water, what is the color of copper sulfate? To this again I added water. So again it acquired water of crystallization. So what is the color, guys? Blue color. So again, why you got blue color when you add water to this colorless solid? Because again water of crystallization reappeared. Okay, so very conceptual question. You have to be very careful in answering such questions, isn't it? See, we had copper sulfate in a test tube that was blue in color because water of crystallization is there. I heat it, this water of crystallization goes off, so it becomes colorless. Again when water is added, water of crystallization comes back, so again the copper sulfate remain in blue color. Okay, so this is what your answer there. And coming to the 31st question. Two sub questions are there here. Why do soaps do not work in hard water? Why? Because of scum formation. Because of scum formation. Yes or no? So what happens? Soap in the sense what? C17H35COO Na. Hard water contains calcium plus 2 ions. So what happens? Calcium ions will get replaced with sodium. So you get C17H35COO. In place of sodium you will have calcium. Right? So this is the formula of scum. Right? Because of this reaction, soap do not work in hard water. Because of scum formation this way. Yeah? Coming to the next question, what are detergents? You have to give the definition. Detergents are nothing but sodium salts of sulfonic acid, right? Sodium salts of sulfonic acids are called detergents. Next question. Let the atomic numbers of elements, what are the elements? V, W, X, Y, Z. Okay. Atomic number of V is 7. Atomic number of W is 10. And here it is 12, 4 and 19. Okay. So atomic numbers are there. First, try to write the symbol of the element. So which element has atomic number 7? It is nitrogen. Which element has atomic number 10? Neon. Atomic number 12 is for Mg. Atomic number 4 is for beryllium. Atomic number 19 is for potassium. Okay. So now you try to answer the question that they have asked. First sub question. Which of the element in the above is a noble gas? Definitely neon is a noble gas. Right? Okay. Next question. Which element has maximum atomic size? Right? See, which group does it come? 15th group. Okay, this is 18th group. This is second group. This is also second group. And this is also first group. You know, size is always greater, right, in the first group elements. Size always decreases from left to right in the periodic table. Okay, as you go from left to right, what happens, guys? Size decreases. That means the group 1 elements have larger size. So which element comes in group 1? Potassium. So definitely potassium has, you can write potassium has larger atomic size. Larger atomic size. Next question. Which is least metallic? The one which is large in size is more metallic. Okay. The one which is small in size is least metallic. Which is least? See, which element is small in size? Nitrogen. 15th group element is small in size. Okay. So the one which is small in size is least metallic. Least metallic. So least metallic is nitrogen. More metallic is potassium. Large in size is potassium. Least in size is nitrogen. Least in size is not neon. Noble gases we don't include in talking about the properties like atomic size, electronegativity and all. Okay. So this way you have to give the answer. So definitely to answer such questions you have to be perfect with the concept. If you are not okay with the concept, you cannot answer such questions. Okay. If you are not perfect with the concept, see, each and every concept was explained in detail in the videos. Just go to the playlist of classification of elements and watch all the 6 videos. You have 6 videos there. Watch every video. Get perfect with the concept. Next, 33rd question. What are the changes that occur in flower after fertilization? Right? So what changes you will observe in a flower after fertilization? First point, you can write, ovule after fertilization. That means after the pollen grain meets with egg, zygote forms, right? So when the zygote forms, what is the changes occurs in a flower? The first thing is ovule gets converted. Ovule gets converted into seed. Very, very important sentence. Second point you have to mention is ovary. Ovary converts into fruit. Yes or no? Third one. What happens to the petals and sepals? Petals and sepals fall off. You know, these are the 3 points you have to compulsorily mention. And next point, what happens? You know, new plant forms from seed. Okay, how it forms from a seed, guys? You have a diagram in the NCERT textbook, right? Something like this. And these two are called cotyledons. We call them as cotyledons. And this is plumule. and this is radical. Yes or no? So what you have to mention? Plumule converts. Plumule converts to shoot. Shoot. And this radical converts to root. Okay. So this much you have to mention in the answer, guys. Right. So the first point is ovule converts into seed. Second point, ovary converts into fruit. Petals, sepals fall off. They will get dried and they fall off. And new plant comes out from seed. Say in a seed, when it matures, you will have plumule and radical. So plumule converts into shoot and radical develops into root. Right? So these points you have to mention. Next sub question. What happens when egg is not fertilized in humans? Okay. When egg is not fertilized, when sperm do not meet with an egg, what will happen for the egg? You know, what happens? Egg undergoes degeneration, and that leads to menstruation. Okay, that leads to menstruation. Yes or no? Uterine walls will break and it will come out through vagina. Degenerated egg along with the uterine wall breaks and comes out through vagina in the form of a blood and mucus. That is what we call menstruation. So this much you have to mention as answer. So you should shortly tell about what is menstruation also. Okay. So that's all about 3-mark questions. Let us go for 4-mark questions. Coming to the first 4-mark question, quite direct question. What are reflex actions? Give the structure of reflex arc and mention the significance of sensory neuron and relay neuron. So what do you mean by reflex actions? See, they are nothing but sudden actions. Yes or no? Very quick actions controlled by spinal cord. Controlled by spinal cord are called reflex actions. Okay. And give the structure of reflex arc. You have to give the structure of reflex arc. It is figure 7.2, which is mentioned in the NCERT textbook. And later mention the significance of sensory neuron. So what will the sensory neuron does here? Sensory neuron actually carries information from where to where? From receptors to spinal cord. Yes or no? So this is the work of sensory neuron. Later they are asking about relay neuron. So what will the relay neuron do? Carries information from or electric impulse from spinal cord to brain. Spinal cord to brain. Yes or no? And later, if they would have asked about motor neuron, you know what is your answer? This also carries information from spinal cord to effector organ. Yes or no? Effector organ, that is muscle. So here you must know the work of sensory neuron, relay neuron, right? And motor neuron also. So all the three are very, very important. Coming to the 35th question, what were the 4 different varieties of pea plants obtained in his dihybrid cross experiment? Show the ratio with the help of a checkerboard. So complete dihybrid cross experiment you have to show with an example and with the help of a checkerboard. At the end you have to mention the different varieties of pea plants that you have got. Mention the genotypic ratio as well as, phenotypic ratio, right, in F2 generation and F1 generation. So let us do with an example. So dihybrid cross in the sense 2 contrasting characters I have to take. Let me take round yellow. Okay, round yellow seeds with, wrinkled green seeds, right? So in case of the seed color, yellow is dominant, green is recessive. In case of seed shape, round is dominant, wrinkled is recessive, right? So what is the genotype you will mention here? RRYY. Here you can mention small r, small y, small y. So when you cross, you will get in the F2 generation RRYY. Directly I am writing. So this is your F2 generation. Okay, so 4 plants you will get. All the 4 plants have a genotype capital R, small r, capital Y, small y. Now if you do self breeding between RRYY, RRYY. Okay, now I'll take these guys as parents. I'll do self breeding. So what are the gametes possible here? Gametes possible is RY, capital R, small y, small r, capital Y, small r, small y. Same way here also you will get capital R, capital Y, capital R, small y, RY, RY, right? So now checkerboard. So how do you draw the checkerboard? Gametes of this parent, write one side, right? RY. So RY, capital R, small y, then RY, small r, small y. So this side also let me write RY, 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 RY. So join capital R, capital R, capital Y, capital Y. So this is round yellow category. Yes or no? Now capital R, capital Y, small y. So this is also round yellow category, right? And then capital R, small r, capital Y. This is also round yellow category, right? And next one, capital R, small r, capital Y, small y. This is also round yellow category, right? So similarly, so if you write everything here, R, Y, Y, this is also round yellow. And here capital R, small y, this is round green category, right? So round and green because small y. And here capital R, capital Y, small y. And this is also round yellow category. So here capital R, small y. And this is round green category. Right? Capital R, small r, capital Y. This is also round yellow. Right? And capital R, small r, capital Y, small y. This is also round yellow. And then small r, capital Y. So this will be wrinkled yellow. Right? And then small r, capital Y, small y. This is also wrinkled yellow. Next, the last one, RRYY. This is round yellow. And next, join with this RRYY. This is round and green, right? And next, RRYY. This is wrinkled yellow. And small r, small y. That is wrinkled green. So how many varieties of plants you got? 9 varieties of round yellow you are getting, right? And 3 varieties of round green you are getting, right? And 3 varieties of wrinkled yellow you got, and 1 variety of wrinkled green you got, right? That is 9:3:3:3. So these varieties you have to mention after writing a checkerboard. So this much makes your answer for 4 marks. Clear? Coming to 36th question, it is on carbon and its compounds. First sub question. Name the products formed when ethane burns in air. Write the balanced chemical equation. You have to be very careful. Ethane burns in air is nothing but combustion reaction. Yes or no? So when anything undergoes a combustion reaction, that is burning in air, you will always get carbon dioxide and water as the products. So ethane, formula C2H6, combustion, that is burning in air, gives you carbon dioxide, water and lots of energy. Yes or no? So this is exothermic reaction. How do you balance this? Balancing is very important, guys. See here, 2 carbons, I'll put 2 here. 6 hydrogens are there, here 2 hydrogens are there, so I'll put 3 here. And coming to the oxygen, here how many oxygens are there? 2 oxygens are there. Here 2 2s are 4 plus 3. So altogether 7 oxygens are there. So how do you balance? If you put 2 here, 4 it will become. If you put 3, 3 2s are 6. If you put 4, 4 2s are 8. But how do you equalize to 7? So what you have to do is, you need 7 oxygens this side, no? So put 7 by 2 initially. Okay, but while balancing there should not be any fraction. So what you will do? The entire equation. Okay, so entire equation, no need to include energy, right? Entire equation multiply by 2. So what do you get? Multiply this with 2. So you will get 2 C2H6 plus, see here, 7 by 2 into 2. This 2 gets cancelled. So what is remaining? 7, right? So what I can write? Just 7O2, right? Giving 2 into 2, 4. So 4 CO2 plus 3 2s are 6. 6 H2O you will get. Plus energy. Plus energy. So this is your balanced chemical equation, guys. Okay, so whenever your situation is like this, say you had only 2 here but this side 7, if you have to equalize to odd number, when you go on putting 2, 3, 4, it will not get balanced. So that point of time, just you want 7 this side, no, so 7 by 2, introduce fraction. Just to remove this 2, what I will do, whole equation I will multiply by 2. So multiply, here just 1 is there, so 1 into 2, 2, so 2 C2H6 I have written. Now you check, each and every element will get balanced. See how many carbons now? Here 2 2s are 4. Here 4 carbons balanced. 2 6 are 12 hydrogens. This side 6 2s are 12 hydrogens balanced. And 7 2s are 14 oxygens. Here you see 4 2s are 8 plus 6. 8 plus 6 is 14, right? So this side 14 oxygens, this side also 14 oxygens. So this is your balanced chemical equation for the combustion of ethane, right? Or reaction of ethane with oxygen. Yeah. Next question. Why are the gas stoves have inlets of air? So we all know gas stoves have small holes. It's because for the better passage of oxygen. So when you pass enough amount of oxygen, then only complete combustion can occur, isn't it? So holes are there in a gas stove for complete passage, for I can say better passage of oxygen for complete combustion. So whenever gas undergoes complete combustion, then only you will get large amount of flame, that blue color flame you will get having higher energy. So if a gas should undergo complete combustion, you need to pass nice amount of oxygen, enough amount of oxygen. That's why gas stoves have that inlets, small holes. Yeah. Third one, what are substitution reactions? Give example, right? Say what example you will give for substitution? CH4 plus Cl2 in presence of sunlight. What is the product you will get? One of the hydrogen gets replaced with one of the Cl. So CH3Cl plus HCl you will get. So what happened? One of the atom gets replaced with another atom is called substitution. In the place of one atom, another atom if comes, that is called substitution reaction. Okay, so this is the example you have to give. So that's all about question number 36. And question number 37 is from the reproduction chapter. Very simple question. First sub question. Name 2 sexually transmitted diseases. So you can mention AIDS, syphilis, right? And even gonorrhea you can mention, right? Question number B, what are the different methods of contraception? So you have mechanical methods. Mechanical methods are there. In case of mechanical methods, you can mention usage of condoms or copper tea, etc. And you have chemical methods. Chemical methods, that is by taking chemical pills, oral pills. Oral pills you can avoid the pregnancy. And later surgical methods are there. In case of surgical methods, what you have to mention is vasectomy and tubectomy you can mention, and you can write the definitions of vasectomy and tubectomy. Okay, vasectomy is done in case of males, tubectomy is done in case of females by cutting and tying of fallopian tube, and here cutting and tying of vas deferens. Next question. Name the part of human female reproductive system where fusion of egg and sperm takes place. So where is the fertilization taking place in female reproductive system? It is fallopian tube. Very important point, right? So it is the fallopian tube where the fertilization, that is fusion of egg and sperm, takes place. So that's all about the 4-mark question. And you have only one 5-mark question. Let us see. Here also you have 2 sub-questions. 38th question. First sub-question is define the term alloy and amalgam. So what do you mean by alloy? So it's very direct question, isn't it? Alloy is nothing but a mixture of 2 metals. 2 metals, or a metal and a non-metal. Metal and a non-metal. Isn't it? So it is nothing but homogeneous mixture, not just mixture, uniform and homogeneous mixture of 2 different metals or 1 metal and 1 non-metal when you combine. So mixture of those metals are called alloys. And what is an amalgam? What is an amalgam? So it is an alloy of mercury. Okay, mercury alloy. Clear? Say it is an alloy where one of the metal is mercury. This way also you can mention, right? Alloy of mercury, or it is an alloy where one of the metal is mercury. Name the alloy used for welding electric wires together. What are its constituents? So which alloy is used for welding electric wires together? It is solder alloy. It is nothing but solder alloy. And what is its constituents? Lead and tin. What is this? Lead, SN in the sense tin. Okay. So actually this solder alloy is having a very low melting points, and that's the reason it is used for welding electric wires. Right. So that was the first sub question. Coming to the second sub question. How is washing soda prepared? Mention any of its 2 uses, right? So washing soda preparation, how do you prepare? You can prepare it from baking powder. So whenever you heat this baking powder, you get NO2CO3 plus CO2 plus H2O, right? And now this Na2CO3 later when combines with water, that is 10H2O, you get Na2CO3 dot 10H2O. So this is what our washing soda, right? And what are its uses? Washing soda, that is sodium carbonate, can be used for softening of hard water. This is a very important use. If you want to convert hard water into soft water, sodium carbonate can be used. And this is also used in the preparation of soaps. Preparation of soaps. Okay. So any 2 uses you have to learn for each and every compound that is there under salt category of acids, bases and salts. Yeah. So that's all about the 80 marks question paper. So some questions were really tricky and challenging, some questions were direct, but this is the pattern of Karnataka State Board examination. And for CBSE board, it's completely a different pattern. But the syllabus and concepts are similar, no doubt in that. Both have NCERT syllabus only, but the approach is different for CBSE. And when exams approaches, we do a different question papers of both CBSE pattern and state board separately. So we may start from the month of February or March or so. So this is one paper of a state board pattern. So with this, actually in a channel we have covered all chemistry and bio chapters. So shortly after a little while we may start the physics chapters also. Keep waiting for the sessions and see you in the next session. Thank you so much. And if you like our videos, please like, share and subscribe our channel to learn the concepts in an easier way and in a detailed way. Thank you so much.